Hi everybody, we are back for another video. In the last video we talked about how to make templates, and I made these paper templates, and I'm going to be talking about how to cut. Now that may be a limiting thing based on what you have in your house. If you happen to have only scissors, you probably only use scissors. So we'll talk about the tools right here. So obviously a good pair of scissors can work wonders on cardboard, and you can use scissors for a lot of things. Some people are more comfortable with scissors. We have X-Acto knives. Some of you, your families may have an X-Acto knife at home. This is a smaller box cutter, and these blades are meant to be broken off with pliers and thrown in the garbage when they get not very sharp. So you can always do that. This is a heavy-duty cutter, and as you can see, it's a very big box cutter with a very long blade. So those are some different ways that we can cut. I'm going to show you in the next few minutes just some pointers on how to get the very best cuts you can. Okay, I have a piece of cardboard. This is kind of a close-up. As you can see, it's got grain. It's got lines going one direction. I think a top tip for assembling your piece would be, to think about what direction that they all go in. For my sculpture, I want to give it a vertical sort of idea, so they're all going to be facing upwards, all these lines, so it looks better when you make them all go the same direction. Let's take a look on the other side. This is the side that had all the markings on it and whatnot, and you can see that I took a Sharpie and I used a ruler and I traced that template on there. Now, scissors are obviously a very good method for cutting these outside shapes. And you can see right here, I'm cutting that and that looks really good. The other side looks nice and clean, right? That looks good. But here's some things you're gonna have a hard time. How are you gonna get the scissors in there? I guess you can stab them through and cut it, but it's not gonna look so good. So if you only had scissors, you could forget about that part if you were making an assignment like that. Or, maybe instead, you cut out a piece that would go resting on top so it pops out rather than a hole all the way through. So there's some ways around there how you can adapt your design. So that's one of the things. I'm going to show you about how to cut, and I'm going to talk about knife safety. Okay, I'm back. I'm putting down a piece of cardboard. This is something I showed in the other video to protect the table because, generally speaking, parents don't like it when you cut up furniture, generally speaking. Okay, so I've got this here, and I'm going to be using a couple tools. I'm going to be using a ruler, and this ruler has a metal edge. Metal is better than plastic, and I'm going to cover up the area that I don't want to cut. If I'm using an X-Acto knife or anything like that, these are very sharp, and instead of trying to cut it through in one time only, do one cut, two cuts, three cuts. Notice how nice and clean that is. When we look at it from the other side, that looks really good. Now I've got a lot of cutting to do, so I'm going to get back to work. Again, I could use, if you're using one of the box cutters, you can put a little bit more pressure on it, but let the blade do the cutting. You get cut when you either don't use a sharp blade or you push too hard. And I cut that all the way, and I think that's going to look great. When I go to cut the inside edges, I have to be careful about how much overcutting I do, so I'm going to go ahead and maybe hold it a little bit more up and down rather than sideways. And then remember, I'm putting on there, I'm covering up the area that I don't want to get messed up. And I may have to do what's called overcutting the corners, which means carefully cutting past it a little bit. That won't mess up your artwork too much. All right, so let's cut this one out. Remember, it's better to do a couple cuts rather than one out of control cut with too much strength. And again, I'm cutting. I'm cutting. I'm cutting. And I might overcut the corners. Now this should drop right out. If you need to, though, you can use the X-Acto knife by sliding it in, okay? Now these knife blades are really sharp, and if possible, wear glasses or safety glasses just in case you snap a blade, and be aware where your fingers are, right? You don't want to cut them. I'm going back from the other side, And let's see. Great. So that is now out. I'm going to move this out of the way. And you can see what a nice clean cut that looks like. That'll look really good on our final project. Okay, so I got a lot of cutting to do. I have 12 of these to cut. We'll be back in a little bit with another